Today's sponsor of the Vision Quest podcast is 920 Hat Company. Leather patch hats are in, and 920 Hat Company is here to hook you up with your very own custom hat. All patches are lasered on top-grade genuine leather and on popular brand hats like Richardson and FlexFit. Whether you're looking to show off your business or want a one-of-a-kind hat for yourself, 920 Hat Company can do it all. All the hats are handcrafted right in the Fox Valley, but worn across America. With over 500 hats in stock, they guarantee fast turnaround times. Honestly, Liam, looking at these hats, solid, right?
Yeah, they're pretty. I like them.
I like that patch itself.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, one-of-a-kind stuff. I know his name's Trevor. He does great work. He's actually gotten I think we got a knit hat coming.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we got that coming. So we're really excited to have these guys on board as a sponsor. So get down to check them out on Facebook. I believe they're on Instagram. Check them out, man. They got the best hats, I think, in the Fox Valley, if not in the state.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So get down to 920 Hat Company on social media and check them out.
It's not important. The intro is not important. We just need to get right to the facts because we have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to talk about. We have a very special guest, and I'm actually, this is probably a little different for me because now I've talked to a few of the female senior wrestlers, but we're talking to Lucha Fit, Katherine Shy. Thank you for joining us. Get your name out there. Yes, but you bring a different twist to it, right? We're still going to talk about your whole story, but we just talked about before how I was kind of bringing up Eric Barnett and the Complete Wrestler and the things that you guys are bringing to the game now, and how you're changing the landscape of how wrestling can look, and you're bringing more of a psychological approach to it, and just healthier outlook to it. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a Vision Quest podcast. We are joined by Katherine Shy, and we are going to be starting out with, hey man, where are you from? Where are you from?
Where am I from? Where do I reside? Yeah. So I am from California, from the Bay Area is where I grew up.
Okay.
And I live in Denver now.
Okay.
So I'll kind of guide you through my my background that basically leads me to Denver. So so my wrestling journey starts with my dad, and
you
hang on, we got a kiddo here.
Nice. That's fine. That's fine.
Yes, go ahead.
That's the whole part of this. That's fine. Bring
Might
it.
not be the first time. Hey, my son comes in on my mental performance calls. He came in when I was doing the meditation portion with my athletes, and I was I muted myself, and I was like, "Kid."
That's awesome.
If anyone they ideally had their eyes closed, but if you had your eyes open, you saw me no.
Get out of here. That's awesome.
My reality.
Bring it.
So we'll get into that too. Grew up in the Bay Area.
Yep.
My dad went to the 56 and the 60 Olympic Games, freestyle and then Greco. Oregon guy, Lee Allen.
Okay. Yeah.
And so my maiden name is Fulp Allen. My sister and I both wrestled my sister Sarah as well on the national team. So this journey is with my sister as well. We were
Holy
on the mat. Yeah,
okay.
we were just there on the mat. My dad, so my dad transitioned into coaching after the 60 games, and because that was his Greco games, because he broke his femur. That was the whole reason he went Greco. So because he was getting off the body.
Wow.
Logging.
Oh, of course, Oregon.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Of course. He's a man.
My uncle was I thought he was dead.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah. Yeah, we're not talking about cutting birch in the backyard. We're talking about cutting huge pine.
I can't imagine. So, so he transitioned into his coaching career, and he was doing Greco. Yep. So he was the 1980 Olympic coach, the boycott year.
Wow.
And he took a lot of world teams, and they kind of structured a little different during then, like the Olympic coach.
You know this game. Game. Holy cow. Okay. Because just wow. Okay. Yep. Mm-hmm. So the Olympic coach, keep going. Sorry, I'm going to answer. I'm amazed right now. This is crazy. Okay.
So, so during that time, whoever was the Olympic coach would take all the world teams. So he was world coach throughout the 70s, boycott year. And then in the 80s, he was coaching at Skyline College, which is a junior college. So coaching men's collegiate. And during the time he would teach self-defense classes, he had a wrestling club, and the women who would join his self-defense classes, he would say, hey, come join my wrestling club. Yeah. And we know at the time there was a women's world championship, but Team USA didn't send anybody. So late 80s, my dad was like, hey, let's have a world team trials, basically. Yeah. Yeah. So that was held in Vallejo, California. And so my dad and then simultaneously my mom were pretty heavy-handed in growing girls wrestling in California in the 90s and in the early 2000s. Wow. So my sister and I got to be a part of that. We were very fortunate to grow up seeing adult women wrestle because we were at my dad's club. We would, it was funny. I was just reflecting on this just in the last 2 days, how I didn't really grow up with like super structured, like kids club practices. Yeah. I started wrestling at about 6 and had my first competition, but I went to one. And then it was like one a year kind of, and it started increasing more like 5th grade, but I still didn't have like once or twice a week kids practices. Really? It was very casual. I would essentially go to my dad's club practices. Sometimes there were kids there. Sometimes there weren't. Sometimes the women would bring their little kids. And so we'd wrestle.
Okay. So
sometimes were you with my sister, but she's 3 years older. So she was much bigger.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. But so even as you were little, were you still maybe wrestling someone that was maybe not your age, but they understood that they need to take it easy with you, but still wrestle around with them?
Probably. Yeah. Yeah.
For lack of a better term, I'm getting old. My brain is just going, sparring. A lot of sparring or something like that with someone that might be a little bigger or whatever,
Yeah, maybe. Right.
Older. Wow.
I remember and I remember it not being very structured,
Sure.
My son's 7, so we're kind of trying to figure out where do we want him to be, and how much structure right now, which that's kind of part of my own theories on wrestling.
Yeah.
And so, so not until middle school was it actual season, season of practices. But by then I had a lot of wrestling experience, going to different things, and I was just in wrestling, pretty saturated in wrestling, but not like today. Don't mistake in that to be I'm going to practices all the time and competing all the time. No.
Nope. Sure.
Just around the sport all the time.
But you're around a really good part of it.
Yeah.
You got to see some really not that you knew it, but at the time, you were taking in things that me and Matt Rats didn't, that kind of thing. So but I think a lot of what you're describing as far as you weren't doing regular practices, you weren't doing you guys weren't going crazy trying to hit every duel. I noticed that a lot, especially with high level athletic parents. Your dad was crazy successful, did a lot of stuff at a high level of a very, very tough sport. And I noticed that with other coaches as well, former NCAA All-American, stuff like that. Let my kid do his thing. They let you guys kind of feel it out. If you don't like it, you don't like it, because they remember that. They remember that pressure of the competing, and they still enjoyed it, but they're like, I don't know if all my kids will go through that.
Yes.
Kind of thing. So I noticed that, and so that's great though. So you came up number one around really, really knowledgeable wrestling. You didn't know it, you didn't have to know it, but you were just around it and took that in. And then on top of that, you had there wasn't pressure for it. So it was really, really fun. Did you notice that other kids were crying a lot, and maybe you weren't, because it wasn't as much of a, and you're kind of hey, I wonder what's wrong with those guys.
I had some awareness, especially as I got older,
Sure.
I definitely had some awareness of those aspects. And it really, when high school came in, because I didn't really know where I would, California Girls High School was pretty established even when, so I went to high school, 2002 and I graduated 2006.
Okay.
I, as a family, my sister was wrestling boys varsity, and as a family, we decided, hey, this we're advocating for all girls competition, and California has enough that I can compete every single weekend. My sister ended her senior year with a pretty bad knee injury from wrestling a kid who, and she was very successful with the boys.
Yeah.
And we were like, this is kind of like not our path anymore. And so I went all girls, and I didn't really know like where I would stack up. So like when I made it to finals of my first girls tournament, it was like, oh, okay, I actually like, I'm pretty good. Like I think I know this sport. Okay. So that was fun. There lots of roller coasters in the high school world.
What sticks out in your head though from youth? What was the biggest thing? Like, because you said you weren't doing a whole, you guys weren't going all over, but were you in some events or whatever when you first did it? Was kind of grabbed you where you're like, yeah, I definitely like
middle school. Yeah, by middle school, I was definitely investing a lot more time, more interest. I wanted to wrestle more girls, and so I asked to go to the USGWA nationals. Oh, nice. My sister was going. So I went and wrestled middle school. How I did, I don't remember. Not great, because I didn't have a good idea of like how to prepare myself for a big competition like that. And I'm sure some of those kids were training really hard. Yeah. I wasn't in that like mode yet, even just personally. And then like most of the time I'm just like tagging onto things. My big trip was going into my freshman year in high school. My dad with a win as a coach, and then there was an organization that would do tours, like world tours for wrestling. Okay. Wayne, oh my gosh, what was his name? I'm forgetting his name. My dad decided to go as a coach. My sister went, like mostly high schoolers, and then I tagged along. So we went to Beijing, China.
Oh, nice.
Like 10-day tour plus like dual meets with a Chinese team and practices.
Wow.
They beat me up. So
yeah, well, you went there, right? I mean, that's the whole. I mean, you didn't know that.
I just continued to kind of like grab onto little, like those kinds of little opportunities, and I was very fortunate being in that kind of an environment,
right,
to be able to take advantage of stuff like that. Yeah. So really, like middle school, I started doing more, and then high school was like, okay, this is like what I do. I did other sports. I ran cross country. I swam. That wasn't really significant for me.
I was going to ask you that if you were like a 2-3 sport, kind of kid. Yes. But and honestly, the sports you were in, I mean, you had the time anyways because there were different seasons, right?
Yes.
Plus running. Yeah. Running is beautiful for wrestling.
Loved cross country for wrestling. I did it middle school. Nice. Actually, through college, we don't need to go there. I wasn't like a college runner. I went to
any soccer. Any soccer?
No.
Oh,
I never did soccer.
Man.
The first time I played soccer was indoors at the Olympic Training Center.
Lucky.
On the walls. So I was like, cool, this is fun.
Yeah, I played out there a couple of times. It's very, very nice out there.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And during that time, like going to more camps, taking advantage of going to girls' camps. The first time I went out the training center, I was like 16 or 17. So nice. Just, I'm finding the opportunities, getting out. So then I went to, we'll try to wrap this part up because now we're getting, we're taking, I don't know. We haven't even got to the senior level career yet.
Nope. That's the point. So, okay. Just a heads up, and we may even have some comments here, but,
you're getting comments. Can I see that?
Yeah. So Joe made a comment here. He goes, I'm here for,
I see.
Yeah. See? And then, Denver. Yeah. Yeah. And then my fellow countryman, Wrestle Madness. Yeah. See, we all get along. We're all this little chasm of a community. It's fun. It's fantastic. Okay, cool. So that's the whole point here is like we everybody gets to hear. You've done podcasts. I've heard them.
Yeah.
We get a little deeper. It's Gary Mayab and I went for almost 3 hours.
Oh my God. Well, he's got a fascinating life story. So.
Oh yeah. Well, so do you. And that's the thing is, especially coming up to Lucha Fit. I know we're not going to spend forever on all the other stuff, but so a little more of the high school level here. The camps and stuff. What were some of the tougher competitions you went to in high school that maybe opened your eyes a little bit more to the next level?
Yeah. Nationals.
Okay.
I got to go on a second international tour.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember how that came about, but that was to Austria. So I did a competition in Austria, and then we stayed and did a camp. I had a slew of wrestlers who were like still kind of were like around for a long time.
Yeah.
I know that Deanna Betterman was on that trip.
Mm-hmm.
That name?
Yep. Oh, yep.
Yep. So Deanna was on that trip. Who else was? There's a few others that like haven't like stuck around, but a lot of those girls were like they stayed on the circuit for a long time.
Yeah.
Nationals, going to USGWA Nationals as a high schooler for the high school division, not middle school.
Nice.
That was big. Starting to compete at senior at the US Open. So at the time,
how old were you?
16.
Nice.
Not common anymore.
Nope.
Not what we do anymore.
That's why I asked. That's why I was like,
Especially because now, there's so many high school opportunities now. Like, at senior nationals that the US Open,
type of
there's like the showcase now for high schoolers, right? Or for the girls, and then the boys have something else.
At the US Open?
Mm-hmm.
The US Open, I know I think the girls have their own division.
The girls have the
U15,
showcase, and the boys, it's called something else, I think.
Oh, I don't know what the boys have, but I know it's because like Liam's in U17 stuff like that.
Okay.
U20s.
Okay.
Things like that. U23 and then seniors for boys. So
yeah.
You know that.
So really because it's like for me, like I know the route that I'm going. Like I see my sister doing that route. She was 3 years older than me. So I got to see kind of like her doing the college route and doing all the senior level competition.
Mm-hmm.
And really, it was kind of like the moment you had an opportunity to wrestle the women at the highest level, you did it. So a bunch of high schoolers would wrestle at the US Open at 16, the moment you could qualify. So that,
to me, that's all. I mean, I know the dangers, but to me, that's like, oh, all right, that's awesome, man.
It's wild, right?
Well done.
I wish I could like find those matches. I don't think, I mean, I bet you we might have some of them recorded because we have a lot. And we but I haven't been able to dig them out. But
so I would think that eventually back then, you would think track wrestling would have had those on.
I don't think that was a thing.
No.
I
don't remember when that started. I don't think
so.
That part, yeah. But anyways, so the high school portion was, as far as the strategic, you guys were just out trying to compete as hard as you could, as much, with the toughest women in the country that you could.
Mm-hmm.
So when you guys are training, was it in high school when you really started to learn? Because I think you were obviously going 16 and going to the senior level. You guys were learning some training methods that most high school kids didn't learn. So were you learning how to cycle through and get ready for a tournament then at that point in high school?
I don't think super well. I think it was more like take opportunities. Because when Fargo would come around, which was like another pretty significant one, I always had a lot of fear around like overtraining during that time because I'd been training so much.
Yeah.
So for me, I realized, later I was like, okay, I wasn't training the way I needed to in order to be prepared for Fargo.
Yeah.
So that was a good lesson for me, I think. I was always in the mix, but
All-American? How'd you yeah, okay.
Yep. But I just wasn't where I wanted to be once Fargo came around. But so that was a good lesson of starting to learn like, how do I actually cycle well? How do I take time off so that I could actually like train hard for Fargo? I was always just like, I'm already so tired. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So
I get it. I totally get it.
And then I went to Menlo College. So that's where my dad was coaching. So he started the program in 2001. My sister graduated and attended like within the first few years. And so then I got to be there with my sister for a year. And then she left for the Olympic Training Center. So so I did 4 years at Menlo College. That was when it was like we were very in sync with senior level route. So we start off the season probably with Sunkist International. We'd have some like college tournaments or like some dual meets, and then really, truly, like we had nationals. I was fourth my freshman year. I lost my sister in semis.
Oh,
a wrestler.
Dang it!
Didn't make weight. She had to come up. Yeah. That was rough. Then I think my sophomore year, I think I was third. I'd lost to Jessica Medina in semis.
Okay.
And then junior, senior year, I won.
Did your sister win it then?
Mm-hmm.
So you did lose to the champion. Okay. You got that. You got that. That's okay. Yeah. That's okay, right?
Yep. Exactly.
Oh, good.
And so it's still, even that college season, like it's still for us, like built into world team trials. So then as soon as school was done in May, I would go spend a month at the Olympic Training Center getting ready for world team trials.
So you guys had your mind on the money, man. Yeah, you guys had well, and that's the other thing I want to ask you, that dynamic with your dad being coach. How was that?
I think it was pretty awesome. And good. My dad was very different than most coaches. Very more soft spoken, and my dad was in his 60s, 70s. He passed in 2012. And so he kind of was in his wise man era. So so he was way more wise, and all my teammates, like, we're all such good friends, are my college teammates. And so at the time they were like, I don't get what coach is saying, and now they're like, coach was so wise, like a father figure, and it really brought us all together. Like,
that's cool.
It was a pretty special group that I had at Menlo College. Some names that people will know if you watch the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
UFC?
A little bit.
Okay, Carla Esparza.
Yes.
So she was my college teammate.
Nice.
Ashley Evans Smith, who's been a little bit like out of the circuit for a while now.
Can't say I remember that one.
Because Carla just made her like last her retirement fight and stuff.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep. And then who's on the? Oh no. I'm like,
don't worry.
There's a lot of men who are Menlo College and have fought in the UFC.
Okay.
And I am just, great. Sorry guys. I'm so sorry. Just
can't hate on her. Don't hate on her. I'll find you.
Look up Menlo College UFC and you'll find who I'm talking about.
All of them. Yep.
Anyways, so did the college route and then went straight to the Olympic Training Center.
So with the college route, because I can't remember as far as the women's circuit back then, as far as college went, what were there national championships for you guys back then? And where were those held?
Good question. So it was just held at different colleges. Cool. I mean, it was a pretty small circuit. It was called the WCWA.
Okay.
It was a coalition of all the coaches and leaders who built those programs, and they put it together. Well, so the WCWA shifted even just like recently, like within the last 5 years. And so now we would have, Menlo's at NAIA school, so we would have been part of NAIA, which Menlo is now moving to D2 or D3 or something.
Nice.
So
moving up.
Yeah.
Only because of people like you, right? Bringing it up. That's right, man.
So that was the only like college nationals. We didn't have now they're divided up.
Yeah. And that's why I was wondering, as far as just how that landscape has changed.
Yeah. So they kind of like dissolved the WCWA and those NAIA, NCAA, there's another organization, they like kind of took those over and made it official. Which
NCAA is really cool. Takes everything over.
Well, it hasn't yet, right? We don't have a nationals for that yet.
Not yet. Yeah. No.
We had a nationals. We had a nationals every year. But still, like, it was a portion of it, but it was still like accumulation. Like, it was always building for world team trials.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know, I know you guys always had it. I couldn't remember exactly how they ran it, because I know I read something about it a while back on the internet, but like you said, it was just different back then. But so we get into the senior. Now you've been overseas, so you've had the experience going overseas, and you wound up going into the senior level, having that much of that much experience. So with that being under your belt, it wasn't new to you, right? It was just a different tournament name, and you're going in. Were you still seeing some of the same girls that you were wrestling at the college level coming back through, or were there a lot of retirements? And then you got new faces.
Oh yeah. Like the same group all the way through. Like even.
Oh really?
Oh yeah.
Did that get boring?
Well, it can get a little tedious because you're like, and then you all end up in the same room at the Olympic Training Center and battling for the same spots. And they're like, be a team USA. And you're like, it's hard.
No.
It's hard. Yeah, no, going in, I had a lot of that experience. I had made a junior Pan Am team. Nice. So like U20.
Yep. I read
U20
that about you. Yep.
Team, and I won junior Pan Ams.
Nice.
Got to go to Venezuela. That was fun. And then both my sister and I made university world teams.
Okay.
Essentially U23. But at the time, that was actually up to 28. So it was a little different. And it was like a different organization who ran that. So I won university worlds. So that was like during my college years.
Okay.
So was going in with a lot of like good international experience.
Yeah.
So when I got to the training center, I was dealing with a pretty nasty elbow injury. Going into world team trials, age group world team trials. So like basically trying to make another U23 team. I'm going to use the same terminology as now, but it was University Worlds.
Yep.
Coming in as like the reigning world champion. And then I lost my first round. Well, I didn't lose. I got injured. But yeah, I got taken over very awkwardly. It was like first round. Awkwardly over, almost like a half fireman's, and I posted, and then I just like rolled out and was like screaming. So my UCL tore. Ugh. And we tried to then I moved to the Olympic Training Center and we tried to rehab. And it's like, we have the best care. We have the best care in the world. It's really, the professionals there are amazing. So we did as best we could to get me ready for world team trials. And I was a mess. Like I couldn't compete. I was taped every day. I then got like an ankle injury. I have an article on Lucha Fit about this experience. Nice. It's been like a bit, people really look for this article because there's not a lot of information about Tommy John surgery and.
Oh yeah. Well, it's all baseball. You gotta go into baseball forums for that one.
Yeah. So if you want to learn more about like my experience, I write that whole thing. I have a whole injury section on Lucha Fit about that. So
luchafit.com. Luchafit.com.
Yes. Yep. Right. So I had that surgery and then I spent the next year, because that was 2010. So I spent, that was 2010. So I spent 2010 to 2011 rehabbing. I feel like I didn't have as much time. Maybe my timeline.
I'm not laughing at your injury. I'm laughing at the background. That's all.
Oh yeah.
No. I could hear the kid in the background.
Oh, can you hear I thought you meant this background.
No, yes. I'm smiling. It's hilarious.
That's my 2-year-old.
I'm not smiling at your injury. Just so you know.
That's my little 2-year-old.
That's awesome.
So rehab the injury, and at the same time I was needing to move up to 55 kilos. So for those who didn't know, when women's wrestling was first introduced, we had 4 weight classes.
Oh, what?
So I couldn't go down to 48 kilos, like 105. I mostly wrestled my college career at like 112, and then the next weight up is 55 kilos, 121. So I had to work So I had to work on.
I love that stuff. That's great.
I had to like get significantly bigger. So I did the craziest amount of squats and weightlifting you could ever imagine. Yeah. Like my whole life was in the weight room because I had my big old brace on, and all I did was try to get bigger. And I'd never really been able to like gain a lot of weight over the years. So this was a task for me.
Right.
So then I got myself ready, got myself bigger, started wrestling 55 kilos. I was like, everyone's so big. And got myself ready for Olympic trials and for 2012. And so that was like, it was pretty significant for me because now all of a sudden I felt like I was kind of behind and I didn't have all this time. I didn't have like a 4-year cycle to get ready for this. My second Olympic trials, because I competed in the 2008 Olympic trials, also at 55 kilos, and I was very small for I was underweight. And I was still actually underweight by 2012 too. So I proved to myself how well I could prepare myself for something big. So like what you were bringing up, like how to prepare yourself well. Well, I went from like injury and being out and not competing to like getting a couple things in and figuring out and then competing the best I ever had. Because I had made national teams at a non-Olympic weight, but at the time it was not considered that. Only top 2 was. Right. So I was like in the mix. I was third, but I wasn't treated like national team, which was a little frustrating. Now it's not even the case. Now there's even top 4. Like we're, you know what I mean? Like we're like, like these wrestlers are badass. It's not just the number 1. It's not just the number 2. It's not just the number 3. Like, you know?
Yeah. Right.
So it was like even more slim pickings for resources and for just like even recognition. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, who are you? You're third at the non-Olympic weight. Who cares?
Right. Yep. Here.
So it was the first time, 2012 Olympic trials, I lost to Kelsey Campbell in the finals, who beat Helen Maroulis and went on to represent. And so I lost to Kelsey, and I made my first national team at an Olympic weight. Yeah. So to me, it really proved like, oh no, I'm actually in the mix. I'm really in the mix, and there's some like very tough women. At that weight. Yep. So then the cycle goes, and 2012 was a pretty tough year for me. Going into that Olympic trials, like just within a month before, we had a pretty big scare with my dad. He went into the hospital, was having issues. My sister and I flew out, and we just like were with him. Yeah. Trying to kind of like deal with, does he go on hospice? Does he do this? Do that? And this is just weeks before Olympic trials. Yeah. So he didn't attend Olympic trials in 2012. He coached us in the corner in 2008. So then this becomes this dynamic of like, who's my coach and who's in my corner and all sorts of things. And that's kind of a big part of what I do now, because so then he ended up passing. So Olympic trials is usually like May, June, probably May or April. It may have been April, May.
I would say April, May, somewhere in there.
It's gotten a little earlier over the years.
Usually it's the U.S. Open, and then the Olympic trials, I think, are usually after some crazy setup like that or whatever. But I'm not Willie. Yeah.
So my dad ended up passing in June of 2012. So after Olympic trials. Yeah. So we just like spent a lot of time at home and with my mom, and so that was definitely a hard time for our family. And
did you think about not wrestling anymore? Was that ever a thought in your head?
Oh yeah. Because
like you talked about having him coaching you in the corner for so long, and, forever. I mean, forever. I can't imagine in high school was he your coach in high school? No, so all the way through. So that's tough. Thinking about just as a parent in general, losing a parent, and then that parent's the person that's being your corner. That's a tough gig right there, man. So
and didn't really realize like how much the foundation of like my family structure had built around and was intertwined with my wrestling. Yeah. Now my sister was retired. She retired right before 2012. She was also third 2004 and third in 2008. She had just retired right before 2012. Another kind of injury that she was like, I think I'm done. Yeah. So it was just me. And so this was like a tough transition. And going in 2012, we usually have like a non-Olympic worlds. So it was like, go back to that non-Olympic weight, Catherine, and go win. This is your time. I had other people telling me that. And I was like, you don't understand. Like, I don't even know where my head space is at. Like my dad just passed. I don't know what wrestling is to me right now.
Yeah.
So I wrestled. It was meh. Like, if I was in a different place, I think that would have been my time to like move into that position and start, make a world team. And that would have been the time. But 2012 was really tough. 2013 was really tough. Like, just trying to figure out who I am and like, what do I want to do?
For sure. That's tough. I mean, that's a rough road. I mean, just coming out and even thinking like you just said, like it was just I'm the only one competing now. So it's did your sister jump in your corner? Has she always been in your corner with your dad too?
She did jump in my corner here and there, but by then she got married in 2013 and was living in Virginia. So
gotcha.
She kind of like was doing her life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that cycle like started off pretty rocky. And then I want to say, I think it was like 2013 or 2014. We had Seiko Yamamoto, who came in and was an assistant coach at the Olympic Training Center. And Seiko Yamamoto is a multi-time Japanese world champion, an amazing person all around, like just one of my, like a dear friend and a amazing mentor. Nice. And I latched on to Seiko because I was like, I don't have like a coach. I was just kind of drowning and like, I just train all the time. Like, and I wasn't really like improving dramatically like I wanted to. So I felt like I had a lot of years at the training center that I was just kind of trying to figure out where I am and what I'm doing,
just kind of drifting around, figuring it out.
Yeah. And when you're like stuck in the number 2 and number 3 spot, like it's really tough. And that's like where I was.
Okay.
And then the difficult part about living and training at the Olympic Training Center is like your coaches are helping you every day and they're not the ones in your corner. So they can't really be like fully the ones who are like, here's the strategy of how you're going to win. Like I wasn't talking, I was just going to practices, training as hard as I could.
Yep.
And not seeing the results. But then like, you're just kind of like, what do I do? This is the best place for US women's like female wrestlers to be.
Yeah. What's going on?
Yeah. So when Seiko came, I really like latched on to her, and she really helped me develop my style, especially as a lanky wrestler. I'm about 5'7" and never felt like anyone was like coaching my style very well. It was kind of like they coached for like that compact, explosive wrestler. And I was like, every time I get under, I'm getting extended. Like, I don't really understand. Seiko helped me understand wrestling mechanics in a whole new way. And it fueled like everything from there. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And it made me fall in love with wrestling again.
Nice. Oh, good.
And so started kind of feeling that energy again. And going into 2015, I couldn't even tell you about 2014 right now. I'd have to even like look back and be like, where did I go? What did I do? Like I was going on tours. We're training, we're
sure.
I was going to China tours. We're doing all the things.
Yeah.
And 2015 was like, things were really coming together. Like putting those things into place that Seiko had taught me. So I was second at the French Grand Prix. Then there was another competition in between there. I had like a lot of things back to back. And then we were in Mongolia. I was in the finals for the Mongolian Open.
Yep. Okay.
And all of a sudden I'm like wrestling the finals and I just like drop. I took a shot and I just dropped. And I go to the corner, the 30-second break, and Terry's like, what happened? Terry Steiner. And I was like, I don't know. I can't like even walk my foot now. Like, I don't know what's going on. So then struggle through the like second period. I think I was only down by like a takedown. I ended up losing that match, hobbled off. And luckily we had a trainer who was like really, really knowledgeable. And she's like, I think this is a Linz-Frank fracture.
Really?
So heard of that thing. I know Kyle Dake had the same thing. Angel Escobedo had the same thing because I talked with those guys about it.
Okay.
So pretty much like right away, went and had surgery because it was like
So what did they have to do for that surgery though? Because I know we met with Angel down in Indiana for a recruitment trip, but he didn't get too far into it. So what did they have to do?
So what they do is they take a plate and they take screws, and it's like basically like the tiny little ligaments in between your big toe, and like the next toe has separated and torn, and you can't repair those tiny ligaments. So they take a big metal thing and they screw it in to like the bone so that it fuses back together.
Delicious.
Yeah. So you have that in for 6 weeks. So I couldn't walk for 6 weeks. I had a knee like a.
Okay, I was gonna say. Okay, all right. You couldn't do anything on it for 6 weeks at all.
Yeah. So for me, it was after like some serious success, and I think even going to that season, I think I was second at the NYC, and then I went to Russia and had a really good competition, and like it was just like things were coming.
Yeah.
And now I'm like out again, second surgery. So 6 weeks, no walking. So this is my whole summer, 2015 summer.
Yep.
And then I basically had to learn how to walk, how to shoot, how to run, like how to shoot so that your like foot can move like this again.
Yep. Rolls. Yep.
And then they take it out.
Really?
Yeah.
So but then now is that considered like another surgery then, removing that, and then the recovery time kind of gets added on to?
I don't remember the recovery time being too bad for that. It was more like superficial, like this surface area.
No skin. Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Right on. Man, that sounds rough. And I with soccer, I've rolled and done a lot to my ankles, and having feet injuries, especially you're talking about how you have to roll on it at the position thing, and can't hold a position or anything like that if you're not rehabbing correctly, because once your stance is different, now everything's different. Now you got to go through and retrain differently, but. Yeah, I would assume, obviously, like you're talking about the doctors out there, especially at the Olympic Training Center. I mean, how rigorous was the rehab for that, as far as just kind of going through day to day?
Every day.
Was it?
Like, I mean, anytime I've rehabbed anything, it's you're doing something every day, because otherwise, like you're not just like sitting out. You live at the Olympic Training Center. You're not just like hanging out.
Right.
So, you're essentially going every day. Maybe there's a few, days here or there that you have off, but like maybe you're doing soft tissue work, maybe you're doing rehab, maybe you're doing things on your own. Maybe I'm rehabbing something else that needed, like every day you get attention, no matter what. Nice. You're giving yourself something.
Yep.
Because then there's conditioning. So then I'm doing like other conditioning. I'm doing my weight training. I'm going into sports psych, and I'm doing mindfulness meditation or sessions with my sports psychologist. So it's always something. Especially 2015, like we're going into Olympic year, So I had less than 6 months to get myself rehab, like on the mat, and then you like gotta get yourself ready and competition ready and all those things. But that 2012 experience showed me that I know how to get shit done. Like I can get myself ready and prepared for competition. I know what that needs to look like. I know how hard I need to train. I know what it needs to feel like. Yeah. So 2016, I was like, okay, I got myself ready. I had I wrestled the best I'd ever wrestled.
Was your doubt because I noticed Liam had to have knee surgery when he was in surgery, not in the surgery, but like he just gotten done. He was in rehab, things like that. He was super down because he couldn't do anything, right? Super down. As soon as he was, the moment he was released to be able to do something, like it was almost like he overdid what he was supposed to do because he needed to get out. Did you find that because you're talking about meditation and things like that, did you find that helped keep you through a lot of what you're not necessarily just a hard time, but even once you bounced back, it was like you were like, boom, right back at it. Didn't even matter that it happened.
Yes. And I write a lot about this. Yeah. I write a lot. I have a couple articles about I'm falling behind in wrestling, why you're not getting back on the mat properly. So some of the biggest mistakes that athletes make first is they think that they need to go through this emotional, and sure, yes, you need to express your emotions if you're sad, and it's hard. Okay.
Yep.
But it's almost like you do it, you give it more justice because you're like, look, I'm depressed because I can't get on. Like, no, you got to like swallow your pride a little bit and you got to be like, well, now I do something else. Doesn't mean that this was easy. Like I literally one day was like kicking my scooter because I was so angry. Okay. So like bear with me, you know what I mean? Like,
it
doesn't mean
it.
sunshine and roses. And I was like, I know exactly what I want to do and it's all great. No.
Yeah.
This.
Yep.
But I was like, it doesn't matter like what I want to do. There's a plan here. So what can I do over and over? Every day I had something I had to do, could do, whatever.
Yep.
Like I hand fought with coaches on the wall with my knee on a chair.
Nice.
I didn't need to do anything about my foot. Like, but I was able to lean against the wall and have Mike Anderson fight me like this.
Yeah.
Get the mental guy to I'm like, let's hand fight. Okay. So
awesome. That's awesome.
So there's always something, always something that you can do.
Yep.
And I did everything that I could do without disrupting the process. Because the process is the most important thing with the rehab. So I don't mess with that.
As a coach, so I coach soccer, but like just having because I played on the national team and things like that when I was younger with soccer. So knowing what the injury process and rolling my ankles, so that was what I told Liam as well. Was he was 45 minutes out of surgery and he was in the weight room, right? And I was like, I'm all for doing whatever you can to make sure that you're still in it because you should. Because a lot of kids now that get an injury, what happens is. And it's not the doctors necessarily. I'm going to go ahead and blame mom and dad. Mom and dad are like, you need to take it easy. You need to stay here. They can take it easy while still staying in condition, somewhat of condition on the side, because there's always, like you said, you're hand fighting. You're sitting with your leg up or whatever and just doing this and hand fighting. Whereas, like with soccer, I mean, there's plenty I could be doing. If I was going to just sit there and do the inside of my foot while I'm sitting on a chair, I can pass a ball like that. Just little things to keep things going. Right. And not just to be stagnant. So it's impressive. Again, the whole Lucha Fit thing, as far as with the articles that I've seen so far, and not only just encouraging as a coach, but also helping that process as far as the healing process, knowing that if you have a kid that's out, you want them to take it easy, but include them still in something to keep them, because it's also a part of up here. It's the mental side. So that's awesome.
Yeah. For coaches who have those kids injured on the side. Hey, what do you feel like you can do today? Upper body, lower body, like, okay, cool. Then I'm going to give you 5 exercises to do. You got to do them over and over. And when they're just sitting there, you just encourage them again. You're like, hey, remember, you got to keep going. I don't take it personal, like,
right.
That's right. Oh, do it. I'm like, come on. Don't forget you're doing this.
Yep. That's right.
Yes. There's a lot of ways to include your injured athletes in the process. Even like, I need you as a timer right now. Yep. Because you are going to be watching the match now.
They're engaged.
I always have a secret agenda.
It keeps it, and it's a good one because it's keeping their brain going still within just within the parameters of what they're supposed to be doing anyways. So
yes, keep them engaged, keep them involved, keep them on there when they want to be like, oh, I can't do anything, I'll just go home. You're like, no, you have to come each day. Like it's still it's still part of your job. You come in, I've got tasks for you, you've got workouts to do. So that you can even have them like write out their own workout.
Right. Yes. And that was something that I noticed that I think Josh had some of these kids do a few times. Like they got some pretty significant injuries. They're going to be out for a while, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, as a parent, and I'm sending my kid to a club like that, I'd rather just keep him going too. And Josh was proactive about that as far as like, hey, you can still come over here and run my phone, or come over here and why don't you run the radio, just whatever it is, so they can still be there.
Yeah.
Some of the kids will leave a little earlier or whatever, but rehab, things like that, or just they didn't want to just sit on the side anymore. But coaches are beginning, because of things like what you have, they are continuing to like improve with how the mental side of things work in the practice room and not just in competition, right? Because obviously getting into your senior level, that's what helped get you through and obviously led you into this. But where did you wind up? What were some of the bigger gains that you made after that injury?
Well, I mean, really, I didn't have a lot of time to compete. I'm trying to remember what I was able to do. I mean, obviously it was like qualifying myself for Olympic trials was like the first step.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be really rocky and rough when you're just getting back into things, So
yeah.
So that was like the task was be healthy, get that checked off the list, move on. So I didn't have like a ton of time to be able to compete.
Okay.
But I was still like able to get myself ready, and I was like, this is the best I'd ever wrestled. So, and Sarah Hildenbrand and I had been going back and forth. And I wrestled her at like one of my first competitions back, and it was the first time I lost to her, and I was like, ugh. So it's oh, look at that.
Sorry.
Then we wrestled at Schultz, so I got to wrestle the Schultz, and I won the Schultz. So that was a pretty significant one for me. Like now be coming back, won the Schultz. I wrestled Sarah in finals, beat her in finals.
Yep.
Tight match, really tight match. And then I had her first round Olympic trials. And like any wrestler, experienced wrestler who knows like one of their toughest opponents is if they have first round, you're like, okay. So that was the gain there was like the mental prep, like really, really over and over reset myself 100 times to get myself ready to like be in a state to compete with someone else who's very high level. And I came in and I teched her, and it was like bad. Like it was just, I was like, who am I right now? Like it was a very out of body experience because
I was going to say,
we just had a tough match at Schultz. So it just like shows the mental prep, because I couldn't tell you that it was like all these other things I did and I grinded harder. It was like the mental prep, it was the focus, it was the intentionality around my training that helped me make those shifts, and I had no idea they were there. I didn't know they were coming. That's what's really cool about the sport, right?
Yeah.
And then I had Helen in semis. Had a good match with Helen. First time she'd cut down to 53 kilos.
Yep.
It was very up in the air whether she'd make weight. The first time she even made weight. So it was like, oh, okay, she's here. Just what you kind of have to deal with. So I lost to Helen in semis, and made my way back to third. So and in the third place spot, still an alternate. Like I've never lost to the runner up, the Olympian.
Yep.
So and then I took time off. My husband we were kind of ready to like transition. We've been married for 2 years. His job was ready to transition. So we moved up to Denver up here.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't know. I'm not feeling, I don't want to go wrestle at World Team Trials. I don't really know what I want to do.
Yeah.
I needed a shoulder surgery. My shoulder had been really nagging me for years.
Did the shoulder happen with the elbow?
No.
Okay.
It was like a lot of overuse, a lot of really bad wrestling position. Like, you can, especially in high school, I would be like, you can armbar me or like half Nelson me to the ends of the earth and I'll never turn. So and then getting underneath and letting people crank on my shoulders. Something that I work on with my wrestlers a lot.
Yeah.
So they're not in the same position of intense wear and tear. Like, so I don't know when my labrum, my shoulder had torn, but it's been torn, and it was daily maintenance too.
Yeah.
So it's like on top of my major injuries that I'd had, there's so many little things.
So I can feel for you on that one, because I had the same thing in my I didn't have surgery because I was like, I'm 45. I'm not worth fixing anymore. But mine came from pulling a bow. I got it about fifth one, and I had to literally let go of the string because it hurt so much. Like right in here, it was so intense. But I'd always dealt with leg injuries. Right, I was soccer. I didn't have a lot up here. You guys had a lot of everywhere as far as wrestling, and I wrestled up until my junior year, but I did not go through what you guys went through. But my legs, I'll tell you what. Right now I'm really starting to pay the price. But the upper body injuries, I never realized how incapacitated I'd be without being able to use an arm, things like that. And you guys are dealing with that like constantly. So you obviously you dealt with it and kind of went on with it and you competed with it. Now I would have pussed out, probably wouldn't have competed with it because that's just how I am.
It was a lot of years with that injury.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just was like, I've had enough. I don't even think I can do this anymore. So I went in and had surgery and had it all repaired. And then was kind of commuting down to Colorado Springs for rehab.
Okay.
And I was also pregnant during that time, not letting anyone know because I didn't want to lose like my access to the training center. We had no policy. And I was like, oh, darn, Terry Steiner, like I can't go to camp right now because I'm, still trying to get paid and whatever services.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, well, I've got this shoulder surgery, so I'm coming to camp in like a day,
Yeah.
And
hanging out,
Yeah. And like I finally told like my trainer and Terry, like, pretty far in.
Yeah.
So then I was like, by the way, I'm pregnant.
Was it kind of hard to hide at that point?
It was kind of where I was like, I think my trainer is going to see when I like go into my sports bra to get treatment that maybe, what is this?
Just wear some bigger sweatpants, that kind of thing. Whatever. It's going there that way. It's like, oh, I'm just different. That's all.
Yeah. Going up.
That's fun. Classes, but you played the game. I don't blame you. You played the game.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Right. And so I had my son in 2017 and I didn't really have plans of like returning to wrestling because I was like, it's mom life now. So I was not like training to compete again. I was just rehabbing my shoulder.
Okay.
And then
program.
Yeah. And then
why not?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I started kind of getting the itch again the next year and started and I wanted to like be involved in wrestling in Denver anyways. So I was trying to find like where can I just like hop in a room? Where can I like wrestle with somebody? I was doing some jujitsu.
Oh, nice.
Because that's where you can actually find like female partners who are adults. And then started like my husband finally was like, okay, you're going to this practice again.
What's going on here?
Yeah. Are you trying to wrestle again? And I was like, shh, no, I'm not, I just,
Those good rumors.
Yeah.
Don't say anything. Yeah.
Like, I didn't know. I just wasn't ready to admit it. And he was kind of like, you need to make this choice. And I'm like, I'm terrified to say, yes, I want to do this. Cause I know what that means for us and our family and the sacrifices you guys have to make.
Yeah. Very true.
And now we have a little one. So, and then it was the absolute best possible thing I think as a family we could have ever done was to have me come back and wrestle. I mean, this is like,
yay.
It was just such an incredible journey to come back. And I wanted to come back with I was like, if I'm coming back to wrestling, I'm coming back with a different mindset. I'm not, I'm not coming in thinking, okay, here's Katherine, number 2, number 3. Like I have to just shift into who I want to be in order to be the Olympian that I'd like to be.
Sure. Yeah.
To be the world Olympic medalist. And so it was like ridding myself of a lot of old programming of what wrestling should be, like the way I grind and how hard and like, can I work smarter? So this journey, so I first competed again in 2019. I found a MMA gym in Denver who had a female owner and also she's an MMA fighter.
Nice.
It became my home. And what I wanted to manifest was somewhere that I could bring my son and he could just run around. I could have him with me. Cause I started training with them full time because I was daddling around, but I was committed to being with them full time. We made this partnership like right around his first birthday. So
I love this cycle, by the way. We started out with your dad, with you being around all of it. And now your child is going to be around all of it. That's awesome. I love that. That's the best circle ever.
Full circle moment.
That's right. Yeah.
So, and then I competed for the first time in 2019 at the Schultz down at the training center. That was a mess. was like, it's going to go so great. It was a little rough. Really, really discouraged me. And then I started just like putting it together. I went to Japan for 20 days.
Yeah.
Left that one.
Left him home.
I went and trained in Japan for 20 days at the same university where Kaori Icho was coaching.
Oh, nice. Okay.
She was working on her return. She was trying to make the 2020 team.
Okay.
That was so awesome. That was really, really cool.
Right.
And then I came back. I went from my terrible debut at the Schultz to finals at the U.S. Open, which was really awesome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it was just fun. And then from there, I won World Team Trials, and then that qualified me for Final X.
Final X.
And I had Sarah in Final X.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just like that mental challenge and all those things of like, yeah, these women have been wrestling for the last. This is 2019, right? I stopped in 2016.
Yep.
So the last 3 years.
Try it all over again.
The last 3 years, these women have built. So there's just, it's just a testament to like, no matter where you are in the place of your career or who you've wrestled in the past and who you've beat, last time we wrestled, I attacked her, right?
Right.
Now here I am losing to her at Final X. But you know what? Like, this is, it's such a tough sport. And it's also a sport of like, you can make the progresses and you can keep building. And even for like Sarah and her career, right? Like she talks about the challenges that she went through for the 2 cycles.
Yep. For sure.
I mean, I understand. I get what she's talking about. I'm also part of that journey for her, like we're also intertwined. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like when it comes to like Helen and Adeline, Vicky Anthony, like those women started competing in high school. Like they're just a couple years behind me, and we've known each other since high school. So like that's when at the beginning you're like, have they stuck around? I'm like, yes,
yes, they have.
Yes, we've known each other all for decades now.
Yeah,
same faces. Yeah. So really, awesome. What was cool about this whole experience was I figured out how to do it on my own. I took the skills that I learned from the training center. And even though there was a lot of rough patches and I really think I was there too long in some ways and I didn't have like the coaching. I didn't have like the coaching not saying that the coaching wasn't great. It was the structure of not having a coach guiding me through this process. Yep. My ability to improve after coming back after 3 years of semi-retirement was fast. Was really fast to go from not training, not training at all, to back on the mat and in Final X, like just figuring those things out. It was just cool to experience. It was really cool to experience. And then
that's a good way to go out. Final X, man. I can't even. I've never been to a Final X. I've watched on TV. You were wrestling on the mat. That's in my eyes.
And it was the first time I started seeing women portrayed a little differently in the media, the photos, the way women celebrated. Like that's a whole nother conversation, but like
it is
the first time.
It's important.
Yeah. The first time I like really celebrated a match was in my third place match at the 2016 Olympic trials. And I was like, really, I had this pretty wild, exciting match to make that national team spot. And I just like celebrated like I never had before. Mm-hmm. It was a really significant moment for me. And then after that, seeing images, videos of the women celebrating, it was because we'd been in this mode of like, well, I deserve to be here and I'm stoic and I have no emotions. I saw it across the board.
Were you guys getting backlash for having celebrations? Were there people saying,
no,
I don't think there should be. I mean, obviously we're okay with the guys doing it. Why can't everybody?
Yeah.
But it was just kind of a stigma you guys had as far as
it was kind of just like we have to be like stoic.
Sure.
Yeah. We're still earning our right to be here. We can't just express.
Right. Yeah. Nope. Yep. I know what you're saying. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I started seeing the women do that more. I saw Final X and I'm like, ooh, this is exciting. Like women are being featured more. So it was really cool to be a part of a Final X.
Yep.
And to just, all the different components of it. It was really, really cool.
Yeah.
So it was fun. That made it fun to like come back and be part of new events I'd never been a part of.
Did you have your family there for that? Were they in attendance? Awesome.
My husband was in my corner.
That's awesome.
And my son was there with my mom.
Cool.
And so, and also during this time, my mom started getting involved in USA Wrestling. So she got on the board for USA Wrestling.
Okay.
And then she picked up some committees and some chairs of some committees. And then all of a sudden she's like, I'm running as second vice president of USA Wrestling. And then all of a sudden this last year, she is now first vice president of USA Wrestling under Bruce Baumgartner. So
wow,
family,
you are just rolling in wrestling.
We're
just rolling in it. You guys are in it. That's awesome.
In it deep.
That's really cool. Well, and I think honestly, I think a lot of families would really like to do that in ways to be able to be that involved. But I mean, you guys have so many ties to just great wrestling from the past that it only makes sense that your mom would do that. It just made sense. That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. She has played a huge part in getting the right people, the right resources, and why girls wrestling has been sanctioning the way it has.
Nice.
Because they formed a committee to do that. So
high five to mom.
High five to mom. Mom. She's over there watching the kids right now.
Nice.
So
awesome. Tell mom thanks.
Yep. Shout out to mom. So I mean, I'm very proud. I'm very proud of my family and the legacy they've built. My sister's been integral in Virginia, helping with Virginia girls wrestling. They've gotten a lot of pushback and I thought you were wearing Virginia. Yes.
Yep. That's where my son's going. He's committed to Virginia.
Oh, nice. Okay. So my sister's in Virginia. She was the women's director for many, many years. So
make sure we get Liam in women's wrestling.
Yeah. Yes.
No, we can't do that. I'll get yelled at.
So
very cool.
Yeah. So then we had like COVID year.
Yeah, the C word.
The C word.
Yeah.
And that year gave me like it was really cool because it was uncool because I lost access to all my coaches.
Yeah.
Training center, couldn't go see the national team coaches. My other team behind the team that we kind of started working together. I think maybe it was after the US Open. I forget when we started, but Troy Nickerson at UNC. So I was their regional training center athlete.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know that crew really well. So they were like in my corner. I'd get up to Greeley as much as I could.
Nice.
And so I had this awesome crew, and then all of a sudden COVID was like, nope, you can't. Like I couldn't go see Troy. I couldn't go down the training center. That was rough. So it was me and my husband in like the basement or at high schools that we could get into. And it was rough. And my husband wrestled in college. So we met at Menlo College and he was wrestling there.
Okay.
So my husband has a wrestling background. And so.
Oh, you guys are just.
But not like senior level, like not like
it's
extensive.
Wrestling.
So we're just trying to we're trying to kind of figure it out together. But it made us really form like a deeper partnership for sure. He was in my corner at Olympic trials along with Troy. And it was emotional. It was an emotional tournament. Lost in the finals of the mini tournament.
Yeah.
And not exactly where like I wanted that to finish, but like there was a lot in that year.
Yeah.
There was a lot in that year, and honestly, I'm very grateful for my return to wrestling, what I was able to do, and how it catapulted me into what I'm doing now with Lucha Fit.
So now we get into that. So what
an hour later.
Right. So with that transition going from competition into, I would say now more of the coach / mindset, like, because it's a wide variety of things that you guys cover on Lucha Fit. So
yeah,
what was that a COVID? Was that spawned from COVID? Kind of hanging around, sitting around, thinking, we don't have this in wrestling. Was it kind of like that?
So my sister and I had started Full Bound Wrestling, like a blog / hey, maybe you want to sponsor these athletes. I don't know how we were hoping people would find us. I don't know. Beginnings of influencer world. Like we started YouTube videos, like we were doing those things way before.
Yeah.
And so we had written some blogs.
You guys broke a lot of ground.
We did.
We'll say that. You guys broke a lot of ground, man.
And then 2017, when I was pregnant with my son, my husband and I sat down and we're like, let's transform Full Balance Wrestling into something else. Because I didn't know if I was going to wrestle again. And so we transformed it, and he came up with the name Lucha Fit. So Lucha is to wrestle, to struggle, to fight.
Yep.
And we the idea originally was kind of like, we want like the lay person to see wrestling as a way, like, could wrestling be wrestling fitness? And so that's kind of where that name evolved. And it's stuck. I didn't want it to be like so wrestling, like, like so wrestling that it didn't, I couldn't, maybe pull in some non-wrestlers to that world.
So that was the thing that I always thought about, is with jiu-jitsu rooms, you always knew wrestling guys went in there because they wanted to learn something different, right? It was just something to be able to compete, whether they got older or whatever. You don't hear the opposite. You don't hear a wrestling room like just a kid coming in to do like stance and motion kind of stuff because it tired him out and he got a good workout for it, right? Like nothing like that, where it's always wrestlers went in there because they're training to compete and they're doing this and they're trying to get ready for this. It wasn't just really just kind of exercising. Right. So expound on that a little bit as far as how you guys kind of came into that.
Yeah. I think you're kind of like spot on there with like our thought process on it.
Okay.
I want more people to access and be interested and be around wrestling. I don't want it to be this exclusive club that you can only get into if you've like checked off certain boxes, or you're tough enough, or you've cut enough weight, or whatever the case may be that we qualify someone being like a tough wrestler. And so, right now, like a lot of women are getting into jiu-jitsu. A lot of women ask me, I would love to learn wrestling. Like, I think that's an entry, into the possibility of getting more people around wrestling, casually wrestling. It is possible. I love that Reese Humphrey's been talking a lot about this casual wrestling, the weekend warrior wrestler, like, and there's a way to do it.
There is.
There's a way to do it without it being grind. I call it like the head bashing.
Yeah. Yep.
I recently spoke about this on Instagram and TikTok about like the your grandpa's war story, where you're like, oh, in my days, I wrestled like this. And
Al Bundy with the football jersey.
And you're like, and then I would have. The other piece to this is that I would have, and now we're getting off the topic of like why Lucha Fit, but
we'll get back. We'll get back
if you want. But
we'll bring it back.
I would have female wrestlers who come in and they would like tell me about what their coaches would like say and do, and I was like, okay.
You did say something about this the other day,
yeah, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. Like, did that help you? Like, wrestle, and I can't give you like a specific example.
No, but you're fine.
I feel like we all know what I'm talking about.
Correct.
They would like make us like we wouldn't all do the right thing, and then we'd all do sprints.
Yep.
Like, so you never learned it.
Were you showing it properly?
Yeah. To me, I'm like, if they're not doing it right, I'm probably not teaching it well enough.
Correct. Yep.
So this is the stuff that I'm like starting to talk about. And people are definitely resistant. They're like a little uncomfortable with that, which is fine.
Well, because it touches a nerve on, sometimes it doesn't allow them then to continue on with what they're doing because it's a better thought. Number one,
Mm-hmm.
it might make them have to do a little extra work and be proactive and probably being more mindful about coaching because you can tear. I mean, coaching soccer, I've seen kids get destroyed just because they're playing on the JV team. You know, like you didn't even like demote them. They just needed to be helpful for JV for a weekend, right? And just kids are losing their minds. Now you have coaches that are going to sit there and browbeat them because they don't know how to do, you know, like a burpee properly. Did you show them how to do it the right way? Because someone probably thinks a burpee is something else.
Yeah,
and they could have learned it a different way, right? So yeah, like you said, kind of understand your athlete a little bit.
Yeah, you know, yeah. And coming back into wrestling, I was in a lot of rooms in Denver, and there's places that like I was like, I'll never go back because the way they were coaching, the way they were speaking to the kids, there were things like I have a high standard of what I think is okay and what's not okay. So it's not everyone's standard, and that's fine. And I think that there's like a time and the place for different things. And sometimes there's those coaches who are like fighting success, and I'm kind of like, and I might not agree with it, but that's life.
Right.
But we know that we have this pretty strong culture issue around wrestling. We know that.
Yep,
it's like very ingrained in us. And the mission with Lucha Fit, you know, I've written a lot of content for athletes, and I really want to shift my focus to coaches. Like I want to be able to reach more coaches who then reach the athletes and say, this is how we do things now. You know, one great example is I was in a room that I was in a lot, and I stayed around, had good partners, but they were like, oh, last week all the kids were doing sprawls. And, okay, listen, like I was like, I'm not doing this right now because I do my sprawls. I do them efficiently. Like I'm in my 30s, like wrestling again. So I don't need to do like 1,000. I got to do them right. But I take that theory down to that, to the younger athletes too. Right. Yeah. So they're like, last time we did like 400 sprawls. And I was like, okay, well, you guys just started. And so I was like, I think I asked, how many are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Well, last time they did like 400. And I was like, okay, we just started and all of them look terrible. Like, I haven't seen one good sprawl. And I was just watching them and they got up to like 100 and something. And I was like, because we're so obsessed with the work.
Yeah. The grind.
Reps, the volume.
Yep.
As long as it's more volume and you sweated hard and the heat was turned on and you had your sweatpants on, then you got work done. No, they all look like garbage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other thing,
quality, not quantity, man.
As I speak about this, I know that I'm going to get a lot of pushback about, which I have about making wrestling like not tough. Like, if I take that portion out, if I don't have kids do 200.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
then what are you talking about? Like you're trying to make wrestling not as tough because wrestling's a tough sport. And what I say to that is like, you guys have no clue the type of training and conditioning and work I've put into this sport.
Right.
Like, if I took you through a session and I was like, here we go. This is how we're going to drill. This is how we're going to spar. This is how we're going to stay mentally focused the whole time. You would be shot. And then the conditioning I have you do after. The conditioning that I did in Japan, oh my gosh. Some of these like veteran tough people within wrestling would be shocked.
Yeah. Okay.
Would be shocked. They'd be like, my body is going to fall apart. Not because like more like from the fatigue, like the intensity, like, not because you've been beat up.
Liam's gone through some of those Iowa workouts. I thought I was going to die just watching them. Like for real. I was like, you guys are nuts.
Our camp going into 2012 and 2016 was in Iowa.
Oh, yeah.
And so I did those stadiums. Y'all, I did those stadiums. I know what it feels like to do the stadiums and then sprint. And no, I've done that.
I was forced into a Badger camp my sophomore year with my brother, and it was probably one of the worst camps that we were running with guys in our backup Camp Randall. Not cool. Because I was a soccer player.
Yeah.
I wasn't made for doing.
Well, you knew how to run for sure.
I know how to run, and I loved wrestling. And it was fun, but it was not there. I was that with soccer. But going through that camp, and now you're talking about running. Oh my god, I don't even want to think about it because it's horrible. That's torture.
Yeah. So basically, and like through these experiences that I have now detailed over the last hour, I have figured out how to make it more efficient, make wrestling a little more efficient, make your training a little more efficient, how to be intentional, how to do it in a short amount of time because you are coming out of surgery.
Yep.
How to peak yourself for a big moment like Olympic trials.
I think that's the one that's missing the most, especially from younger kids in high school up to college, is peaking.
Mm-hmm.
You hear about them talking about it, right? But you never really see someone through that process correctly. So I think that's a huge one that I noticed on the website as well, was the whole peaking subject. I was because it's just weird because everyone's different, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone's got a different vibe, different mojo that they wind up getting at certain times. So it's awesome that you're doing that in a perspective where someone can grab that. We'll cut. They sound pretty pissed. We'll be done pretty soon. I don't want to make the kids mad.
We'll wrap it up soon.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up soon. But so with the evolution of what you went through and then coming up to Lucha Fit, what is your, I guess, mission statement to be able to going forward with it?
Yeah. Really? Okay. So the mission is to reach hundreds of thousands of athletes, coaches, and parents to create serious culture change within wrestling, to get those three groups to start thinking really intentionally about their training instead of just what they think wrestling is. I want to like educate as many within the wrestling world as I possibly can. Awesome. So right now, I've got a course on Lucha Fit that's all about video analysis.
Okay.
So instead of the old traditional, like I watched a YouTube video and there was a cool move and I thought that was cool, so I start trying it in practice.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm teaching you and taking you through how to like break down video.
Okay.
I created a whole process on it. That's one that I've been implementing in my old video, and I was like, if I had looked at it from this lens,
Yep.
how cool I would have like figured out, like the simplest things of like, oh, I was in a front headlock multiple times. I thought that this match was all about when I lost in this position. It was really about the front headlock, like something like that. I was in there 5 times. I scored twice. I should have scored the 3 other times, or why did I not? Yeah. Okay. So we're breaking down, and that's just one example of many. And I have you break it down for yourself. Mm-hmm. Opponent study and elite level study. Okay. And then as a coach, you can do the same thing. Like, how would I break down my wrestlers? How would I break down their competitors? How do I study elite level study or elite level wrestlers, and then start bringing that back into the room? So that's, kind of where I'm buzzing right now, because it came out of COVID. That did. Because my husband and I were like studying video like crazy. Okay, I never liked video before. I was like always very frustrated with watching my own video. So, and he helped me like figure out a way to actually study it to be productive and not frustrated all the time. So, so we created this course because we're like, let's take this knowledge, let's like put it out there. So we've had coaches. I went and taught this system to Beat the Streets LA, which was really, really nice. Incredible, and teach it in person was super fun. So it's an online on your own course, basically. You need to go. Go get out. Okay, you have to go. I promise. So we probably should wrap it up. Yeah, but
wrap it up.
That's the mission. Yeah. So I have tons of free articles I'm writing constantly.
Video on there,
and then right? Say that again.
You guys have video on there too, like, don't you guys have any kind
I have some different video, but more on my social. It's like an easier platform right now. I do have a YouTube channel, and I link to it. Like I have helpful way to see like how you should warm up and cool down in between matches and energy manage.
Okay. Nice.
And that's on my YouTube channel, but it's also like in the article.
Okay.
So I've got a lot of, and I'm figuring out like the next steps here, of what coaches want. What's the next steps?
Yep. You put some feelers
coaches.
out. I saw that the other day. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that coaches are getting the resources they need.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a survey. Anyone can reach out to me. I have a survey that I'm putting out so that I can hear that feedback from coaches and I can learn like what's going to be the right way that coaches want to like learn this information. What are the exact things they want to learn? And what's really going to motivate them to keep learning. Yes. I don't want it to be boring, right? Like,
right. It's great you got the coaches on the side of that as well, not just the athletes. That's great that you have something not only to help the coaches along, but you're helping the coaches as far as just better themselves as far as furthering their coaching as well. So, because it's different now, things are changing. So you're helping them evolve.
Yes. Things are changing rapidly and wrestling. Like I clearly love this sport. I feel really deep into it. Even if I'm critical about the culture, it's not personal. Don't take it personal.
It's to help change. It's to help change. Really it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Like somebody commented on TikTok and they're like, don't talk down to people. And I was like,
no.
Okay, I'm not really talking down. I'm just talking very passionately about something that I felt like was an athlete safety thing. Sure, okay. Some people want a gentle approach.
Whatever.
But we need to be upfront with these things and be like, are we okay with this as we see as normal?
Yeah.
Or like, are we normalizing it and saying it's totally cool? Let's just like treat these athletes this way, especially high schoolers. Or are we just like kind of afraid of the truth? Like you said, like they have to have change when they confront it. That's scary. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. That's the hardest part, I think, is just being an old guy. There's certain things that I don't like, and there's certain things I don't want to change. Yeah. Sometimes those things have to change in order for things to get better. So you got to suck it up. We're going to let you go because I think your kid's going to murder you in the middle of the night if you don't get going pretty soon. But Katherine, it's been a very great time here talking with you. You took forever with us. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Everybody, go check out luchafit.com. Check out all of the possibilities that there are on there for coaches, athletes. Changing the game. Hopefully we can help you down the line here. I know Joe and I are trying to work on a couple of things. Hopefully this all works out with that too. So let's keep that going. Let's keep changing this wrestling game and let's make this a better place. You got any shout outs at the end here? Your kids.
Shout out to my kids. Shout out to my husband if he's watching because he's actually in Boston right now.
Nice.
Shout out to anyone who's watching or watches this in the future that I have worked with. Because you guys are always the people, like anyone that I've ever worked with or gone to a camp or clinic or whatever, if you've attended with, me being there, everything that I collect, all the information I collect from those moments, I use for Lucha Fit. Like everything's fueling that future. So come subscribe because there's going to be so many new things coming and it's just exciting. It's all new. Wrestling has never seen this before. So jump on the train.
Awesome. LuchaFit.com. Check it out. Everybody, we appreciate you hanging out. Katherine, especially, thank you for hanging out with us. I only need you for a minute right when we're done, so I'm going to end this right now. People, go check out LuchaFit.com. Peace. Awesome.
All of our episodes are brought to you by Appleton Tattoo, located at 117 South Appleton Street in Appleton, Wisconsin, right off the main drag on College Avenue. You can't miss them. I've had some work done. I have a Celtic cross that covers my back that was done by Jason. We're not done yet. Jason Winans and crew, the artists that he have there, those guys are the best in the Fox Valley. They are definitely one to go to if it's something that you've just been kind of throwing around. They'll make you feel comfortable. It's a very clean environment. very nice crew, and very willing to get done whatever you need done when you need it done. You can message them on Facebook. I know they're on Facebook. You can give them a call at 920-604-8289 and get in touch with Jason Winans and crew at Appleton Tattoo, located again in Appleton, Wisconsin at 117 South Appleton Street, right in Appleton. Very flexible hours, great crew, clean environment again. I would not send you anywhere else except for these guys. Appleton Tattoo.